Assalamu alaikum, guys. Welcome back. Headed off to work right now, but I thought I'd tell you a little story on the way. When I was a medical intern in 2003, I used to live in Chicago, and it was at that time when I decided that I wanted to study this book right here that we talked about yesterday. So this is Martin Ling's book, The Life of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. And I really wanted to study this inside out, know all the information. Yesterday we talked about knowing the names, but it was just very overwhelming to know all the names. Well, as I was studying that book, I had stumbled across this lecture series by Sheikh Hamza Yusuf right here. And this is a lecture series on the life of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. And he was actually, at this time, you know, for those of you who don't know Hamza Yusuf, he is one of the co-founders of Zaytuna College, one of the first Muslim liberal arts college in the United States. And at that time, this is before he had founded that, in 1998, he had taught a course on the life of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. And interestingly enough, he had based that book on that course on this textbook as the course reading. Let's see here. Let's pull in so we can chat and don't get into an accident here. So I was driving along, listening to this every single day, and what happened is one day I put in, I finished CD 4, and then I took CD number 5, and right here, and I popped it into my car. And as I was listening, I vividly remember driving north on Lakeshore Drive in Chicago, and as I was listening to it, all of a sudden, in the middle of CD 5, he stops his general narrative, and he makes a comment which really hit me. Take a listen.
This book, a lot of people find it difficult because of the names. It is a problem. And you know, it would be really nice if somebody actually went through the book, wrote down all the names, and then had a glossary of names that you could kind of keep with you as you read the book. That would be really useful.
When I heard that, I thought to myself, I want to be the guy who creates the glossary that everyone else can use so that when they read Martin Ling's book, they're going to actually finally have that thing that's going to help them get through the book, know all the names, and not get lost. And so in 2003, I started this journey of every time I came across someone's name in the book, I would just underline it, and then I had a separate notebook where I just write down the name and write down what happened for that person. And I'll just go through that over and over and over again. Every time that name came up again, I'll just add to the same entry and add to the same entry and add to the same entry. Well, as you can imagine, there are over 300 names in this book, there are 300 characters, and my notebook couldn't handle it all. And so what I did is I actually moved my entire thing onto a database on my computer where I just added names, and so each entry had their name, their full name, who all their relationships were with, their mother, their father, what clan they were from, what tribe they were from, who they were related to, and then a small kind of biography of like what happened in their life according to this book. Now this thing itself took me probably about 5-6 years to do, because you have to understand at the time I was in my medical training, I did my internship, I was doing my residency, and then I was going on to fellowship and so forth in Boston. And so I was kind of working on this as like a side project as I was just going through life and living life. But finally, I can't remember the year, but I'd finally finished every single name, and it was fairly exhaustive resource. I mean, just this page alone is just the first of 3 pages of the Abdullahs that we talked about right now. And so once I had finished that journey of just creating the glossary, I was super excited. Now you have to understand, I didn't know Hamza Yusuf, I didn't know anyone at Zaytuna College at the time, but I thought to myself, hopefully no one has done this project before, and what I can do is just kind of fold it up and just ship it off to Zaytuna College and just say, maybe you can distribute it, do whatever you want with it, and hopefully it's helpful to a lot of people. And that was my game plan. But things changed as I was working on this project. Things got a little bit more involved, a little bit more detailed, and because of that, I didn't just stop with a glossary. Let me go back to the office so I can explain to you a little bit more about what I'm talking about. I'll see you over there in just a second. Okay, guys, so we're in the office. We were talking about this glossary that I've been working on, right, from Martin Ling's book. So the med school student in me just couldn't resist not dissecting the book anymore. So, for example, if I came across a name like, let's see here, Abdul Muttalib. Okay, so Abdul Muttalib is a name of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him's grandfather, right? Now, it's one thing to have it in like this kind of glossary form, but to really understand relationships and so forth, it's a lot more helpful to kind of see things in family trees. And unfortunately, in Martin Ling's book right here, he only has one family tree in the beginning of the book, which you can see right here, but it doesn't go into too much details. It's a very broad outline. And I really want to know a little bit more detail about how people relate it. So I'd end up doing things like this, like, you know, to have the book here and I'd be at a page and I'm reading about Abdul Muttalib, and then I'd kind of just, I would need to like kind of draw it out. That's just the way my brain works. I like to look at figures and graphics. So, you know, I would do something like this, and I'd say Abdul Muttalib, and then I'd say, okay, well, Abdul Muttalib, he had many sons. When you look at Abdul Muttalib, yes, he had sons like Abdullah, but he had other sons like named Hamza. So I'll just write Hamza here. He wasn't older, but Hamza right here. Abdul Muttalib also had a daughter named Safiya. And so these two players right here are actually really important players in this book right now. But if you don't see it in family tree form, you don't realize, wow, this is a really strong connection right here. Like, this is a Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him's aunt. And this is the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, his uncle. But this guy right here is actually the same age as the Prophet. So now you're dealing with an uncle and a nephew, but they're actually the age of like cousins or brothers, and that can kind of throw you off. So to have these kind of spatially arranged family trees really makes it much easier to understand stuff. So, you know, that's one thing that I would do a lot of, is just draw out family trees. Another thing that I would often do is, if you know, I'd be reading the book and so forth, and they'd be talking about, oh, you know what, the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, he migrated from one city to another city, or people migrated from Mecca to another continent like Africa. For me, I really like to draw that stuff out and understand how it looked. It just helped me visualize things. So I know there was one migration, for example, where a lot of Muslims were being persecuted in the earlier years. The Prophet, peace be upon him, told them that, you know what, you better get out of here because it's pretty dangerous. So these people actually went across the Red Sea right here to Abyssinia, so then I'd write Abyssinia right here. So I had all these maps right here, and the maps also allowed me to kind of start visualizing the story so much more than just reading plain text, which is just, maybe some people are able to do that, but that's just not me. I need to like see things so I can really understand it. And then I'd start writing notes on the maps, because I'd be like, okay, so I could remind myself, I would be like, I'd just kind of just do a quick caption for myself, be like, remember X, Y, and Z, and kind of just have a little story that would point to that. Oh, something really interesting happened right here, and I'd just do X, Y, Z here, or have some more details. So I had the kind of these intricate diagrams and layouts. Now, what I did from that point is that, like I said, it started blossoming into this bigger project that was just more than what I call the Hamza Yusuf challenge of just delivering a glossary to the world. Because what happened, I'll try to recreate the scene here. I'll try to recreate my desk here. So I'll put this book out here. This is obviously like the starting book was Martin Ling's book right here, so you guys can see that on the desk. This is Martin Ling's book right here, so that was in the corner. Then I had Hamza Yusuf's CD set right here. This is kind of like a dramatized version of my thing. I had CDs over here, and then on top of that, I started taking notes. So then I had my notebook. So my notebook was right here as I'm kind of taking notes while I'm going through these two resources right now. But what happened as my glossary is growing, so now here's my glossary, so I'll put the glossary right here. As the glossary is growing, I'm realizing there's some holes in this book, or I can't find connections between who people are. I want some more details because some stuff wasn't mentioned in here. And so I started going to other texts. And the next text that I went to is actually this book right here, which is called The Sealed Nectar. It's a very highly regarded book, especially in the Eastern world. It's written by an author by the name of Sheikh Safi al-Rahman al-Mubarakpuri, and it's been highly vetted. It's won multiple awards in biography competitions about the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. Probably the most commonly read book in the Eastern Hemisphere in English and in multiple languages. It's been translated into many, many languages. And I think it won. Apparently, I'm just reading the back cover. It says right here. You guys can read this right here. This book was awarded first prize by the Muslim World League Worldwide Competition of the Biography of the Prophet in 1979. So this is kind of like a standard in the Eastern world. And I would say for a long time, and maybe to now, even till now, this is a standard in the Western world. So I thought between this book and this book, put them together, I pretty much have all the major details of the life of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. But believe it or not, there was even more information. I wanted more details. I wanted to have a complete whole picture of this. So after I went through this book completely and this book completely and kind of filled in some of the gaps that each other book maybe had, I went to some more books because these books talk a lot about what happened and how it happened, when it happened. They don't necessarily get into a whole lot of why things happen. And that was something that I was realizing for myself, is that I really wanted to know why. I had a lot of why questions. Like, why would the Prophet, peace be upon him, do that? Like, I'm surprised he did that. Why would he do that? What was the meaning behind that? And most importantly, like, why is this important to me? You know, why do I disagree with this? Why does this make me uncomfortable? Why does this charge me? Why does this excite me? Why does this concern me? And so those questions about how what I was reading was actually affecting me in my life and how to apply it in my life, I started going to other books to get answers from those. And some of those books were books like Tariq Ramadan and the Footsteps of the Prophet, beautiful book on reflections of the life of the Prophet for your everyday kind of life. Another book, this is a fantastic book by Karen Armstrong named Muhammad, a very short book. This is probably one of the first books I recommend to readers who are interested in studying the life of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, and don't have any background in it whatsoever. So a lot for people coming from other traditions, and even for Muslims who just want to get a basic sense. I always recommend that this is a quick first read, beautiful book. Here's another book. William Montgomery Watt is another really renowned historian who has written these books, Muhammad in Mecca, Muhammad in Medina. So a lot of detail in these books right here. So I started like trying to devour any possible resource I could find on the life of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. And this is kind of like the genesis of Revelation, is that it's just this kind of this pet project that I had that started growing and growing and growing just because I really wanted to learn this person. And one of the things that you'll find for those of you who have studied the life of a prophet, any prophet, it doesn't have to be the Prophet Muhammad, it could be Jesus, Moses, David, Solomon, whoever you're studying. If you really have good resources and you're understanding them well, and they're authentic resources, it's like almost impossible not to get completely sucked in by the personality. It was one of the best things I've ever done in my life. It was so enjoyable. It never felt like work. It just felt like this thing. It felt like, for those of you who have ever fallen in love with someone, you don't ever think about spending time with them as like, oh man, I gotta go spend 2 hours with so-and-so. Or when you're in love with someone, you're just like, oh, when can I see them next? When can I see them next? Like, let me finish work and let me, like, maybe I can get out like 5 minutes early so I can beat traffic so I can go spend more time with them there. Right? So that's kind of like, it switches the relationship. And so depending on the relationship, if you have a relationship where you have to meet someone you don't really care to meet, or it's a business relationship, you're really logging the hours and thinking about. But when it's a relationship with someone that you're actually in love with, especially in that beginning phase when you're falling in love with somebody, all you can think about is how can I rearrange my schedule so I can maximize my time with that person. And the reality of the situation is, for me, and this is kind of, I guess, a little bit more personal, is that I began studying the life of the Prophet Muhammad, and as you can see right here, is a very kind of academic exercise. You know, you have to remember, I was coming right out of medical school at the time, and my academic engine was all geared up. I was used to studying 12, 14 hours a day. And as soon as I finished medical school, I was like, okay, well, what's next? What else can I study and master? But what happened over time for me is that something happened which I wasn't expecting. And that's that I vividly remember, I don't know if I have a laptop. Oh yeah, I vividly remember I would take my laptop, I'd go to like a Starbucks or like a Seattle's Best or something like that. I'd do a lot of work in coffee shops back in the day when I was living in Boston and so forth. And I'd open up my laptop and I'd be doing like kind of like the academic thing. I'd be doing like the brain work and typing stuff, maybe like, you know, cross-referencing and stuff like that. And then something I would read and I would actually start getting really emotional. And all of a sudden this exercise that started up here kind of started drifting down into my heart. And I remember several times specifically, I remember the place, the actual coffee shop where I was sitting at, where I would just start crying. I mean, and I'd be like kind of embarrassed by it because I'm sitting in a coffee shop with other people and I'm just like trying to like swallow my tears and just like kick myself out of it because I was so incredibly moved by like this person, like the humanity of the Prophet Muhammad and the humanity of the people around him, like his wives. I was just so moved by them that this brain exercise started turning into like a heart exercise. And add on top of that, I remember this was that time in my life where, life is tough. Everyone has challenges. I had my challenges too, relationships and so forth. I was in the period of time in my life where I was mostly alone. I was not married. I had moved to Phoenix and I didn't know anybody here. I knew like one person here. So I was just working a lot and just working on my book a lot. So I was pretty much didn't have many friends here for a while. And in that situation, this was my best friend. My best friend was the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, and the people around him, his uncle, his cousin, his friend. I felt like that was my posse. I could always go back to them, we could hang out, and I could learn more from their stories. I always tell people, you should read all of these resources that I did. You can't just read one book, you have to read all of them. But if you don't have time to do all that, and you kind of want to try to get the best of the best of all the books, all of this stuff right here is what is in this book right here. And so I often say, if you read Revelation, you're basically reading like an entire bookshelf of books on the life of the Prophet Muhammad. You're getting the whole thing compressed into one book and organized in a manner that you can remember, work with, and retrieve very quickly. And I'm just so happy you guys are joining me on this journey. And then for those of you, remember, those of you who make it to the end of every video, here's a secret. Go to the revelationexperience.com. Website is right here. Make sure you register there where you can get the free full audio experience, the Revelation Experience audio podcast. It's basically my audio book to this, and it's free for you to have. You just have to sign up and you will get full access, unlimited, to, inshallah, God willing, over hundreds of episodes. Me walking you through the story of Revelation, chapter by chapter, so you don't have to read the book. This is 400 pages. I will just give it to you, all the high level stuff. I actually like that more than I like my book because it's powerful, it's personal, and it incorporates incredibly beautiful Qur'anic recitation from none other than my own personal Qur'an teacher and incredible reciter, Qari Hassan Halil. So make sure you go to therevelationexperience.com, sign up for that free audio course. In the meantime, we got so much more to unpack, so much more to uncover, and the best part is still yet to come. Can't wait to see you guys in the next episode. I will see you guys soon, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum.